This is Ian Hartley.
I am Warren Kay.
And I am Sasha Steenbergen.
Welcome to the Rediscovering God Dialogue.
We invite you to join us as we endeavor to see Him more clearly
And love Him more dearly while following Him more nearly. Welcome to those of you that are joining us as we are on this journey to rediscover the God that Jesus knew. Today's episode is on the origin of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the Garden of Eden. This is a follow-up of episode 245, where the results of eating from this tree were examined. The major result observed was the belief that God is dualistic, being both loving and vindictive, both good and evil. And it was this false picture of God which was introduced by the serpent into the minds of Adam and Eve at that tree. This false understanding condemned man to fear God and desire to be free from Him. Jesus had come to dispel this false understanding. And so in this podcast, we examine how this tree came to be in the garden, which is a really important question to be asked. How did this tree come to be there? Ian, please introduce this to us.
So why this is so important is that it paints a picture of God. If you say that God created that tree at the very beginning, it gives you a picture of God where He's watching you to see if you're going to be true blue, obedient to Him or not. Yeah. You're living under supervision. Mm-hmm. You're not living under love. Yeah. And this is diametrically opposed to the picture that Jesus brought us. So buckle up for the ride. We're going to talk about choice and free choice and be quite definitive about that. And then we're going to talk about was it the tree that was the problem, or was the serpent in the tree? And just drill right down to find out where the source of this temptation actually came from. Mm-hmm. And then we'll finally end up by looking at the Garden of Eden after sin has run its course and ask, does this tree remain in the garden, or is it never mentioned? Mm-hmm. So that's sort of the roadmap of this podcast, which will probably evolve into 2 podcasts. So here we go. Let's talk about choice. Choice is the act, opportunity, or power of selecting one or more options from a set of possibilities. It encompasses both the decision-making process and the specific outcome or range of options available. And that, of course, is AI generated. Thank you very much, Mr. AI. Now, what might be surprising to you and the listeners is there are situations where choice is not available. I, for instance, did not choose my gender. I did not choose my parents. I did not choose my home language, and I can go on ad infinitum. I didn't choose my height, I didn't choose my DNA, blah, blah. You can go on forever. Mm-hmm. Actually, I'm happy without having had any choice in these areas. Mm-hmm. I'm comfortable being male, English-speaking, and had good parents. So not all people are happy with their birth options. There are children who disown their parents. Some people change their gender. They're unhappy with the gender they were assigned. Not all people are happy with their birth options, like their home language. and they opt for other languages and gradually forget their home language. Is English your home language, Sasha?
No, I was born in Germany and learned to speak German as a young one.
And do you still speak German fluently?
Nur ein bisschen.
Ein bisschen. Okay. So I just want some feedback. Is it surprising to you that we don't have choice in some areas?
It seems to me that some things, I mean, how could God give us a choice in some of those things? You have to come with a certain set of parameters that you're given, and then you go from there. So it's very reasonable and understandable. I would agree. I'm happy with what I was given. I might feel differently if I wasn't happy. Like some people were not raised in a good home, and had a very challenging childhood, and so they may feel that those things weren't fair, and often they aren't fair. I think we're fortunate to feel that we're happy with what we started out with.
Yeah. Well, and I think when you talk about the fact that God doesn't hold, things against us because we didn't choose, to be born here. I think that was one of the things that gave me great comfort in knowing that, because then it doesn't matter how we feel about it, because we could feel very resentful about where we came from, how we got here, and all that. But to know that he doesn't hold anything against us, even if we'd never made a choice about it. Yeah.
Yeah, some people are raised with such pain that I can only imagine what that would be like, because I haven't experienced that. But to be raised with incredible pain, suffering, you begin to question why.
Yeah, totally.
So let's move, thanks guys, let's move on to what we mean by freedom of choice. We've talked about choice. This is, you can select from options which one you go with. What does it mean to have freedom of choice as opposed to just having choice? So I looked this up on AI also, and to my happy surprise, they nailed it. Here's their definition. Freedom of choice means the power to make decisions and the freedom to act as an autonomous agent, uncoerced by external forces. So the addition of that adverb free implies the absence of coercion for choosing any one of the options. There are always consequences, but these reside in the nature of the option chosen. For instance, which household detergent I buy at the supermarket has no coercion attached to it that I know of by the seller. There are some detergents which are more powerful than others, but this is the consequence or the result of their chemical makeup. In something a little bit more personal, if I choose to ignore a red traffic light, I might get T-boned and killed. This is not coercion, but an inherent possible consequence. The fine for ignoring a red light is coercive. It's only a consequence because we made a law that creates that consequence. If there's coercion for any option chosen, it means it's a forced choice. It is no longer a free choice. Paying tax is an example of a forced choice. You actually have no choice in the matter. Your choice is pay the tax or be prosecuted. So when it comes to religion, some Christians believe that human beings are going to hell or heaven. That is a choice, but hardly a free choice when heaven is a reward and hell is a punishment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is huge. This identification of freedom of choice as having a choice where there's no coercion is uncommon knowledge.
It's certainly not universal knowledge, is it?
No. Well, most Christians believe that if you're good enough, you'll go to heaven and live happily ever afterwards. And if you're not good enough, you're going to hell and you'll burn unhappily ever afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So that's no free choice.
Mm-hmm.
That's a forced choice. There is no freedom if God at the end of the day executes all those who choose an alternative lifestyle to the one he has prescribed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is staring us in the face in 1 Corinthians 13, verse 5. We actually need to reference this passage. It's written by a man who early in his life didn't believe in free choice and wanted to coerce everybody to practice their religion in the way he thought was right. So 1 Corinthians 13, verse 5, has 5 statements. We're interested in one of them. Did I say 5? It has 4 statements.
Yeah, mine starts with or rude. So if we go back to 4, it says love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not.
Thank you. Just stop there. Love does not demand its own way. This is very new for people when in thinking about God.
Mm-hmm.
They agree that that's if you want to have a loving relationship with another human being, you can't insist on your own way all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's abuse. But we seldom think of God in this respect. So if you're going to postulate that you have to keep God's commandments, else you're going to go to hell, then God's demanding his own way. So many justice... Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, and I don't know where you're going to go with all of this, but that's why I think it was so pivotal for when you really talked through about the flood story, because it changed the picture of what was happening there. If I believe that God was sending the flood to kill all the evil people, I put that in quotation marks, then of course I believe that at the end of time that God is going to come and kill all the evil people, because it just makes then perfect sense. If I believe that God was sending a boat through the ark and saying, everyone come on board, hence why he had him preach for so many years, hoping and hoping and hoping that people would come in and be saved from the rescue mission that he's planning, then he literally had only good in mind, only the knowledge, the prediction that there was going to be a flood. And so then when you bring this into the backstory of the end of time, then that completely makes sense then that he's not the agent of death here.
So, you're very subtle. You say, you're not sure where I'm going, and you completely derailed me and where you went. Well done. I'm getting wise to you, Sasha Steenbergen.
Oh, please pardon me.
You're right on, spot on the money. Thank you.
Oh,
Many justice-supporting, liberty-loving people reject the Judeo-Christian God for this very reason. The concept of a just God destroying those who chose another way of living, even though they had been warned, is unfair and smacks of Stalinism. Now, notice what happens right here in the Garden of Eden. The story has it that God says if you eat from that tree, you're going to die. And most people assume that that means God's going to kill them. And this is what's so devilish about this tree of the knowledge of good and evil, is that it postulates this huge false picture of God.
Yeah.
And that he works on the basis of reward and punishment, which is antithetical to working on the basis of love, mercy, and compassion. Go ahead, Warren.
I just want to clarify something in what I heard Sasha say that about the flood, because the common understanding is that God sent the flood to destroy those that had exercised their freedom to choose other than what he wanted. And yet what we've said, and I think she's working from this premise, but people might not realize it, we believe that the flood came as a natural result of what the people were doing, and God was saving them from that natural result, not from his sending a flood to destroy them.
Right. Yes. Thank you for that
Yeah,
clarification.
just to clarify that. But
Yeah.
sorry to derail you there, but we'll go back to what you were saying, Ian.
That's great.
So I'm going to try this Sasha stunt now. So what God does is, as has been mentioned, there's an awful long time in building the ark so that people can have their curiosity piqued.
Yeah.
And then you have all the animals walking in. You know, this is a mystery. And there must have been tours of the ark, you know, and selling CDs on its construction and so on, you know, McDonald's at a few outlets there on the different levels. And the people walked out. And then the door is not closed to keep people out, it's closed to keep the water out.
Yeah. Amen.
You see, your picture of God determines how you decode this story. So we're talking about animals. Behavioral scientists run clinical and behavioral experiments to increase their understanding about the mechanism of human and animal choice making. We are fascinated by the accounts of horse whisperers and elephant whisperers and their understandings of how animal choices are influenced. At the same time, we know that some experiments are immoral or unkind. They are avoided in a humane society. Good parents don't leave money lying around to test or develop a child's honesty. Good parents do not make street drugs or pornography available for adolescents to provide them with choice. Now, I mention this because some people feel that if God hadn't have put the tree of knowledge of good and evil in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve wouldn't have had a choice. That is not fair to put that on God. While monitoring for conformity may be acceptable, such as placing cameras to record traffic violations, it's not ethical or moral to use cameras to record private human activity.
Yeah. Well, and back to the point that you just made there, because I heard that my whole growing up, is that that's the reason why he had to put that tree there, was because he was giving freedom of choice. Do you want to follow the good or the bad? But going with that, if we go back to before creation, Satan didn't need a tree or any other metaphor that was showing the bad that he could choose. that literally came within, like, or however it did, the mystery of it, or whatever. So God was always giving free choice, and within that, that that occurred mysteriously somehow. So it wouldn't make sense then that you'd have to have a tree in there with these two options.
Yeah, you're right on.
Good point.
So this is where we need to talk about faith and facts, because facts are coercive. You know, if some action is disputed and I can show you a movie which proves that the action took place, you can't really argue with a factual record like that. So Sigvard Tonstad, a medical doctor turned theologian, or theologian turned medical doctor, I'm not sure which came first. He makes this point. And let me just give a run-up by saying it's because God created us with freedom of choice that his system is based on faith, not fact. Facts can be coercive when it comes to choices. Now, I'm quoting now from Sigvard Tonstad. Proof gives a person no way of retreat. Faced with incontrovertible proof, the person who is in his or her right mind will have to surrender even if yielding happens against his or her will. Jesus offers evidence but not proof, in part because the indisputable proof can be a form of compulsion. In God's economy, it is possible to say no without seeming to be out of one's mind. Assent must be freely given, and it must be given in response to manifestations that are not coercive.
Wow. That's really a phenomenal observation, especially for a group of people that believe that, we have the truth. And so if we can just sit you down and tell you the truth, you have to accept it, because a logical person is going to accept truth.
Right.
And so we end up with people that may be convinced logically, but their heart isn't there.
Thank you. So when we attribute free choice to God's creation, we mean that he will not prevent the suggestion of alternative lifestyles and will not coerce those who choose an alternative lifestyle. If God did this, he could be rightly indicted as an abuser or a manipulator.
Right.
Okay, so I think we've done a reasonable job of talking about choice and freedom of choice and forced choice. So now we can talk about the garden specifically, and we'll start with the state of the original garden as God made it. So one of the first points we need to make is that the story of creation, as narrated in Genesis, was told for thousands of years before it was recorded by Moses. Okay, so Moses lives about 1,500 years before Jesus. So depending upon your chronology, the earth was made 6,000 years before today, or 10,000 years, or 12,000 years. But we can say, even with a minimal 6,000 year history for life on the planet, that Moses lives 1,500 years before Jesus, and Jesus is 4,000 years after creation. So this story's been told for 2,500 years before Moses writes it down.
Interesting.
That's a long time. I mean, my stories change from the start of the years that I started telling them to now.
You know, that's uncommon knowledge. You know, we know a little bit about the art of storytelling, and here's one thing we know about it that's interesting. When you tell a story, you're listening to the response. So the part of your story where people are going ho-hum and starting to look on their cell phones, you shorten that part. And the part where they laugh or cry,
Yeah.
you extend that part.
Yeah.
Okay. This is just a natural evolution of stories. And all good storytellers do this.
Yeah.
Anybody whose stories are static, they never change, they're not very good storytellers. Or they're very good storytellers and they know how to tell it right from the very beginning.
True, true.
So why am I mentioning this to you? Because the names of the rivers in Eden, and we need to read this, Genesis 2:10-14, and you'll see why this is relevant. Genesis 2:10-14.
A river flowed from the land of Eden, watering the garden and then dividing into 4 branches. The first branch, called Fission, flowed through the entire land of Havilah, where gold is found. The gold of that land is exceptionally pure. Aromatic resin and onyx stone are also found there. The second branch, called Gihon, flowed around the entire land of Cush. The third branch, called the Tigris, flowed east of the land of Asher. The fourth branch is called the Euphrates.
Okay, so those 4 names are current after the flood. And Cush and Havilah are names used after the flood. They didn't exist before the flood. If they existed, they had other names. But, I mean, it was just a garden to begin with. So we're getting all this information attached to the creation story that comes long afterwards. And that's only natural because the story's been told for 2,500 years at least before it's written down. Now, this is what the story says about Eden, and you all know this. Genesis 1, verse 31. If we can read that.
Then God looked over all he had made and saw that it was very good.
Okay, so the Creator pronounces everything that is made as very good. Now, I want to ask you, would that include a place in the garden where temptation is lurking?
No.
No.
No. Later on, the narrative will just casually introduce the tree of the knowledge of good and evil as being in the garden and being made by God. But remember, this is written 2,500 years after it actually happens. So the time frame between when the garden was made and when this presence of evil invaded the garden is telescoped. And it feels almost as though that tree was always there. Now, I want to read Genesis 2:25. This is an anecdotal comment in the story.
Now the man and his wife were both naked, but they felt no shame.
So this is prior to sin. And it's alerting you to what's going to happen when they sin. They are going to then perceive their nakedness, and it results in shame. So what it's telling you is that there's no sin, there's no shame at the beginning of the garden. This pronouncement of they're naked and there's no shame demonstrates that sexuality and procreation were present without any negative connotations. Mm-hmm. It is also the prelude to the nakedness revealed by sin when Adam and Eve eat of this tree's fruit. Now, I want us to go to Jesus because he was there. And this is what he says in John 10, verse 10. Let's read it, please.
The thief's purpose is to steal and kill and destroy. My purpose is to give them a rich and satisfying life.
Okay, so this is the Creator who shows up in human form, and he's telling you about his motivation for creation. Mm-hmm. What is it? I came to give you abundant life. Mm. There's somebody else who came to steal, kill, and destroy. Now that is exactly what temptation does. It steals away your trust in God. It kills your hope. And it destroys your peace and joy. Mm-hmm. Because of this false picture of God. Now, I want to take this statement by Jesus seriously. Whenever there's abundant life, Jesus is at work.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever there's stealing, killing, and destroying, the thief or the devil is at work. Mm-hmm. There is no dualism in the God Jesus described. In Jesus' picture of God, he doesn't blow hot and cold. He doesn't love you today and tomorrow is punishing you for your misdeeds. We'll come back to that. James 1, verse 13 to 14. And let's read it because this is a very dogmatic statement by James. James 1, 13 to 14.
And remember, when you are being tempted, do not say, God is tempting me. God is never tempted to do wrong, and he never tempts anyone else. Temptation comes from our own desires, which entice us and drag us away.
Notice, God does not tempt, and he cannot be tempted. So if there was temptation in the garden at any time, it was not because of something God had done. The assumption that God created a space in the garden where choice had to be made when all was joy and happiness is to discount God's heart of love. There was no need for options that might lead to sorrow and suffering. Creating choices which could lead to temptation and the possibility of failure is mean and cruel. Mm-hmm. There must be more to the story than a simple attribution to God of placing the tree in the garden. Mm-hmm. Death was not part of the original garden, and this means the cause of death was also absent in the original garden. Temptation and death came later. We're going to talk about the presence of evil, how it arises in the garden. There was no evil or death in the garden at its creation. The narrative included the temptation of Eve by the serpent in chapter 3, but does not include the origin of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil or the serpent. In retrospect, it states this tree and the serpent were in the garden. The presence of the evil serpent came after the creation of the garden and the creation of Adam and Eve. It was the serpent who brought the temptation, not a tree that God had created. I think that's a big distinction to make.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the tree that creates a knowledge of good and evil. It's a serpent with his temptations and his suggestions that create this knowledge of good and evil. Who planted this tree in the garden? Perhaps this is the wrong question. It might be that it was a regular tree, and the difference was that Satan was allowed to be present in this one tree. He was given access at only one tree among thousands. The serpent's access to Adam and Eve was restricted to this tree, and the tree must have been named in retrospect, as evil would have been an unknown concept at this point in time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thousands of years later, Jesus will describe the evil one as follows: Satan has desired to sift you like wheat. He wants to show the chaff in your character and embarrass you enough to destroy you. And this is what he accomplishes at this tree.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, eating once from this tree resulted in long-term chaos for the planet.
Mm-hmm.
It parallels a parasitic invasion of the body. If not dealt with, it will destroy the body. Morally, a one-night stand has the potential to destroy a long-term relationship immediately and forever.
Yeah.
Mm.
The tree of life apparently had to be eaten from on a regular basis. It was not a one-bite effect. This is why Adam and Eve had to leave Eden. They could have ended up being immortal sufferers, as postulated in an ever-burning hell much later in Earth's history. Order or harmony is the result of continuous maintenance by those involved. It is a higher state than the descent into chaos or pain that sin results in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to explain that one bite of this tree brought about long-term suffering, and one bite of the tree of life didn't bring about eternal joy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That escapes me.
Yeah, and yet as you were talking, I thought about the power of doubt and discouragement and shame, how huge an effect it has on your life, and how sometimes, even us, when we think back to certain experiences in our lives where a certain word is said, or even the way something is said, can totally take you out of the game. And can, shape you going forward. And so, how you even said that idea of, one affair could totally, like a one night stand could totally ruin the relationship for the rest of its life, even if you didn't say anything about it. Things like that, I think metaphorically, I make it I bring that to the tree. That idea of even just believing that first initial thing that Satan said that caused her to doubt God and to see him in a way that she'd never seen him in before, makes so much sense to me, the way that I have believed about God, even reading it from the way I've heard the Bible read as it is written, that it made me believe a certain way about God and sort of took me totally out of the game the older I got. And yet, how one word of decoding can really just bring you back into a life experience with Jesus and God, which I think is what you've been doing here. And so I think of it more metaphorically even than the physical bite.
Thank you. It's good input.
Yeah, I think you articulated that well, Sasha, because it really is not just what they ate, it was the act of eating that represented a mistrust of God.
Yeah.
And something fractured, something broke there. And as God had said, if you eat of the tree, you will die. Spiritually, she died and experienced fear and shame and questioned herself and God, and everything was unraveled.
Yeah.
Living the positive life takes more energy than living the negative life. It's more rewarding.
Yeah.
But it just seems to be in the nature of our broken planet.
Mm-hmm.
And we all three know about it, and every listener knows about it. So what shall we say to each other? Put your hand in the hand of the man. Let's pray together. Dear God, you've gone to such extraordinary lengths to win back our loyalty. We can only marvel at your patience, your acceptance, your forgiveness, and your proposed redemption for every sinner on this planet. You came and loved us. We tortured you and executed you. You rose from the dead. You triumphed over the dead. And you came back even more loving and kinder than before we executed you. You are wonderful. Mm-hmm. We worship you with joy. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. You can find the PDF document that we've been using to record the podcast on our website, rediscoveringgod.ca. And if you want to send us an email, you can do that at rediscoveringgod20@gmail.com.
Perfect. And then we would love to invite you to join us on Monday nights on Zoom. You can just type in 403-506-9201. You'll be admitted into the room, and it's a lovely community of people. We love to share together. It's always so encouraging, and we absolutely would love to see you there.
We have people from Australia, United States, and across Canada that join us, and it's a wonderful time. So that's 6:30 Monday evenings, Mountain Standard Time. And then also we have started about a month ago, putting things out on social media. So you can find the 2-minute summaries of our podcasts that we're putting out there on Facebook, Rediscovering God Facebook, or Warren K Facebook. Also Instagram, Rediscovering_God on Instagram, as well as
you can check it out on TikTok, which is really kind of fun, as well as YouTube. And so we really look forward to seeing people. It helps to share it when we like and comment and share it with a friend. It really does help the algorithm, so it does boost it up so more people get to see it. And so I know I'm blessed every single day when I get my new little clip or carousel, and absolutely I'm so encouraged by it.
Thank you for joining us. And we'd love to hear from you and discover how rediscovering this God that Jesus knew is changing your life.